Like me, my ex-wife was a very broken person. The marriage did endure an affair that brought great havoc and brokenness. Our marriage ended in a divorce that was mutually caused by our sins and failures against one another. Trying to resolve or reconcile the destructiveness, the chaos, and of how an affair breaks a marriage, the only obvious option was to forgive. Though I didn't have any idea what forgiveness really meant, didn't really understand what forgiveness would look like or require. And so much of my forgiveness was transactional, in that it was constantly being earned by present behavior to make up for the debt that I felt I was owed. I was very now suspicious and insecure in the marriage, and living through those things was painful. So there was this sense of, I'm owed for this, though it wasn't verbalized, or I don't think it was very cognitive, it was just there. My sinful heart was exposed, and so my reactions of my sinfulness of trying to protect myself and to control another person and to be harsh with them and to belittle them contributed to the continual demise of the marriage. I realized probably within a year or two after the divorce that I didn't understand forgiveness. My sinful coping mechanisms, my defense mechanisms, my using anger and harshness to control my environment continued to play out in life, in particular to my marriage to Deb. And as I began to see the effects of those things in her, the Spirit of God made me aware of those mechanisms I really wasn't aware of. I just thought this was just me. And so as I began to see the effect of them on somebody that I loved and who was completely faithful and loyal and expressed the kindness of God to me, it began to unravel my self-protection. I began to see how my sin was tearing down another, and I couldn't fix it. The damage that I had been done, much like an affair does in a marriage. And so I was stuck with a debt that I couldn't pay. My only hope was to understand that Jesus forgave me, paid for my sin, and then also paid for the debt. And I could only hope that and pray that that would have an effect in our marriage, where it would begin to bring healing to Deb. So the process of my own personal healing was slow and for many years imperceptible to Deb. She knew that something had transpired because of the conversations we had, because of how I felt like God met me and encountered me, and my understanding of grace became a real and vital piece of my spiritual life. And so it was over many years, the love of His grace began to secure me to the place where I began to see that that wasn't who I was, and I began to see more and more how those hurt and harmed Deb and others. And so it just began to unravel, but it only unraveled under the security of God's love and grace to me. He was just kind, He was generous to me. And lots of that came through Deb's kindness and graciousness towards me. For all the ways that I was hurting her, she somehow, by God's mercy to her, continued to stay available and risking and believing that God was doing something.